Hello, I think you've seen it on the thumbnail. We will talk Geoman today. It has been a very long time since I talked about Geoman. It's because it's it feels very, very passive to me. So what is Geoman? I mean, I got many subscribers since the last video and you might have not heard of it. What the hell is it? So geoman.io, I'll link it below. It started out as an open source library that I've built a plugin for Leaflet to manage geospatial data on a map directly. So you can basically draw markers, draw polygons and all that. So it got popular. I think it's one of the best libraries out there for what it does, a very niche thing, but basically any company that has any data related to, a map, basically, that you want to display on a map and manage on a map, kind of needs this. And it's very niche in the sense that it's mostly not customer facing, it's mostly internal tools at these companies. So I've built an open source library and then made a small editor so you can use it online even. But I maintained the library for like 5-6 years in my spare time, and it was like free to use for everyone. But at some point it felt not sustainable anymore. Like the requests of users piled up. The users are all developers. So the requests piled up and people wanted more features, wanted more support and so on and so on. The more popular it got, the less fun it was, kind of, because it just feels like a lot of burden. And I thought about like stopping it and all that, but then I thought maybe I can just make something sustainable out of it. So I offer a pro version of that. So that has very much more advanced and niche features that just companies mostly need. So it's things that are not worth to build because it takes weeks or months. But if companies pay for it, then it's fine. So I started to put a pro version out that basically has a yearly fee, currently at $4,999, so $5,000 per year. I experimented with the price. I went from like 100 a month to 2,000 per year to 5,000, even 10,000 a year, but then rolled it back to 5. And 5 is a good number now, and I will keep it that way. And it's a very hands-off experience. So I will get into this, but so what it does is you can install it for your application. You can use it inside your application for your users. It costs $5,000 a year per application, so not per user or something like this, but just per application where it's installed. So today I want to talk a bit about the kind of business model that is, and how it differs also from Trezor One. And I think in general, if you think about making something and think about this kind of business model approach, at least have it in your mind so you are aware, because it's very interesting and potentially much more lucrative and time sensitive, or let's say flexible in time, than something like Trezor One that's B2C. So the Trezor One is B2C. It has end customers, consumers as users. That means it needs a lot more users, is probably cheaper. So we're talking like currently €8 a month for the smallest plan. You need a lot of users, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, a million, to create a bigger business. And margins, I don't know, they get better over time, but it starts out, of course, very low. With €5 a month, or let's say you have 10 users, you can't do anything with it, with the money that comes into that. But on the B2B side, especially on recurring revenue, it gets much more interesting, because if you have a huge company, you can charge high prices. Even though bootstrappers like us, makers that start out, we think of pricing in a consumer way, like $30 a month, that's way too much, or $100 a month, that's way too much. But believe me, we charge too low, always. I know, I read this many times from experts in the fields. And if I look at enterprises, what they pay for some of these services, we definitely price too low. Like the whole indie hacker community and so on, we price too low. So we can raise the prices up. We can triple it, and just try it. Luckily, we are small enough to have these experiments. I think $5,000 a year is a price spot where I landed, where I feel good about it. It's worth it to also do extra work, give support and so on for customers. And I can also ensure that I can sustain it because I'm working with a freelancer, awesome guy. He maintains the open source library and builds features for the pro library, and we just he gets a share of the revenue, and that's the very interesting part in this case. All the work that I did was in the past. Like I've spent 5-6 years building that so we can have a pro library and so on. And now I can just sell it basically. So I'm not coding on it very rarely. I just do pair programming with a freelancer every now and then. But it's very rare. And it almost feels like passive income. Of course, it's much lower currently than Trezor One. It has not the momentum and so on. But I also don't do anything to, sell it. It's like every now and then I get an email of someone who wants to buy it. We exchange emails back and forth. They buy it, and I sold a license for $5,000 a year. So it gets very close to some sort of passive income. And in this field, in this B2B world where you just sell a piece of software, it's also very low maintenance and very low support heavy. You have bigger customers, they just use it, and as long as it works, and that of course you have to ensure, they are quite happy about it. Then every now and then they get a new feature, they get bug fixes and so on, but it's not like with Trezor One where if something breaks I get like 500 emails. And many people reach out. So customer support with B2C is a huge burden. So in order to scale, you kind of have to solve this, and it's very hard to automate. But on the B2B side, you have few big customers that are, of course, it adds a higher risk of when something goes wrong and two customers churn or something, you are in trouble money-wise. But on the other hand, it's a great way of having a side income. Like once you build a software that you can sell, and it can be anything, can be WordPress plugin, can be something for Shopify, a pro version of an open source library, whatever it is. Once you have that asset built and you can just scale the selling of it, and if there is a low maintenance, low customer support, then this is a great way of a additional income on the side. So this is a realization I had in the, let's say, recent 6 months. I always try to make more out of it. I think there is still potential to make much more out of it also in a SaaS world, like having a SaaS platform with all of that. I just don't have the time to pursue it. And it's a bigger thing, like selling to businesses and so on. It's of course a much different game, but the margins and the ratio of how much work you put in and how much return you have if you sell an asset like a software piece, it's a lot more attractive regarding time versus return. That's really, really interesting. There's no momentum. It kind of feels a bit boring, there is not momentum like in Trezor One that like motivates me and I want to get into it every day. But strictly the financial part and the time you invest in, that's very, very attractive. So if you're just looking for a side income, maybe consider that. I think it's a very nice way, and I would love to build some more in the future. But on the other hand, of course, I've spent 5 years building it, so reaping the rewards now is also a bit like cheating, because when I started, I didn't think of this at all. It was just like a side project. I learned a lot. It was fun. Still is fun if I work on it, when I work on it. But reaping the rewards of that now, of course, it's easy to say then, this is the good thing. If you have to spend like 5 years building it and promoting it, so people actually use it and depend on it, that also comes with it, of course. But all in all, I think it's a great way. And I know there are many nice like plugins and things like this, big technological platforms where you can just like add value to the users and earn money like this. I think there are businesses that just like, have a thriving, very profitable business just with WordPress plugins, for example. So it's totally in the reach of that. What are the plans for Geoman? None really. Like I'm completely full with Trezor One and of course my full-time job at Stripe. So I don't have any specific plans. I will go with the flow. Like it's currently is. Work with the freelancer. We still develop it slowly, but we do. And hope to get a few more customers. NASA is now using it, but got it for free. So there are bigger like organizations and applications coming in. And we will just continue to do that and every now and then develop more. But you know, if there is a rise, even like at some point, if the income is big enough, like currently it's 1,000 MRR, a little bit above, but if it gets more, you know, then I would love to buy more time of the freelancer or add an additional freelancer to develop it even further, because I think there is untapped potential there. Yeah. All right, that was the Geoman update. I hope you enjoyed. I know it's a very boring part, but on the other hand, it's also very interesting. And I think we can get some learnings out of that and how to pursue profitable side projects that hopefully create a new revenue stream for our lives. All right, that has been it. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.